Beneath a thick, hazy orange sky lies one of the strangest places in our solar system, a world that looks eerily familiar, yet is completely alien. This isn't Earth. It's Titan, Saturn's largest moon. And for decades, no one knew what was hiding beneath those clouds. Then NASA finally pierced the haze, and what they found stunned scientists around the world. An atmosphere like Earth's. Rivers and lakes made not of water, but liquid methane. Ice that behaves like rock. And maybe, just maybe, the conditions for life. But here's the twist: NASA isn't done. They're going back. And what happens on Titan next might change everything we know about life beyond Earth. Our first real look at Titan didn't come from a telescope. It came from a machine drifting silently through the darkness. In 1979, NASA's Pioneer 11 spacecraft made history as it passed by Saturn for the very first time. Its mission was simple: get close, gather data, and give humanity its first real glimpse of the mysterious world orbiting beneath those rings. Scientists had spent years imagining what Titan might look like. Some thought it would be just another frozen rock. Others hoped for something far stranger. But when Pioneer arrived, all it saw was orange. A thick, swirling blanket of haze wrapped the entire moon, hiding every inch of its surface. It wasn't a dead rock. It was a secret. Pioneer couldn't break through the clouds visually, but it didn't leave empty-handed. The probe's instruments picked up something no one expected: a dense atmosphere rich in nitrogen, the very same gas that makes up most of Earth's air. Suddenly, Titan wasn't just another moon. It had become something far more intriguing: a world with an Earth-like atmosphere, but an alien heart. And scientists knew, if the air was this strange, what waited beneath could be even more extraordinary. What Pioneer 11 discovered wasn't just interesting, it was unsettling. Titan didn't just have an atmosphere, it had the right kind of atmosphere. Thick, layered, and eerily familiar. NASA's instruments revealed that most of it was made of nitrogen, just like Earth. And hidden within that haze was something even more extraordinary: hydrocarbons. Now, for most people, that word doesn't sound like much. But for scientists, hydrocarbons are a cosmic red flag. The kind that says, there's something happening here. Hydrocarbons are made of hydrogen and carbon, the same chemical building blocks that power your car, heat your home, and make up the basic structure of life. DNA, proteins, carbohydrates, they all start with hydrocarbons. On Earth, they're the foundation of biology and energy. Finding them floating around on a frozen moon, that's not just surprising. That's a clue. Titan's air isn't just random gas. It's chemically active. Methane is constantly being broken down by sunlight and then replenished by something below. And here's where it gets weird. Methane doesn't last long in an atmosphere. If something isn't replacing it, it disappears, which means something on Titan is feeding the atmosphere. Was it just geological activity? Volcanic plumes of frozen methane leaking from the ground? Or something more? No one had the answer. But this single mystery, why methane existed at all, made Titan one of the most fascinating objects in the solar system. Hydrocarbons also pointed to another possibility. If you combine carbon-based molecules with oxygen and energy, you don't just get chemistry, you get biology. And Titan had already checked 2 of those boxes. The only question left was whether something hidden beneath those clouds could complete the puzzle. For NASA, this changed everything. Titan was no longer just a moon, it was a potential laboratory frozen in time. A place where the early ingredients for life might still be brewing, the same way they did on Earth billions of years ago. And that was all before anyone had even seen what was on the surface. For decades, Titan sat behind its orange curtain, taunting every telescope pointed its way. NASA had the clues: a thick atmosphere, hydrocarbons, strange chemical signals, but no one could see what was really down there. That changed in 2004. After a journey of nearly 7 years across billions of kilometers of empty space, NASA's Cassini spacecraft finally arrived at Saturn. It wasn't just a camera in space, it was a flying laboratory. Cassini was armed with radar and infrared sensors powerful enough to slice through Titan's impenetrable haze and reveal what had been hidden for centuries. Over the next 13 years, Cassini would fly past Titan 127 times. Each pass peeled away another layer of mystery. And with every scan, every reading, every pixel of radar data, Titan transformed from a vague orange blur into a living, breathing alien world. The first surprise? Titan's atmosphere wasn't just thick. It was massive, 4 times denser than Earth's. That meant sunlight barely reached the surface, and what little warmth made it through was trapped and twisted in strange ways. Instead of warming the moon like a greenhouse, the atmosphere actually kept it colder, a reverse greenhouse effect. That cold meant the methane in the air condensed into rain. But not like rain here on Earth. Titan's storms are slow, heavy, and icy. Drops of liquid methane falling onto a surface made of frozen water that's hard as rock. And that surface wasn't flat. Cassini's radar revealed winding riverbeds, deep valleys, and glimmering lakes scattered across the poles. Titan wasn't a lifeless ball of ice. It had weather. It had erosion. It had geology. One moment, Cassini captured a radar image that changed everything. A bright reflection from Titan's North Pole. Smooth, flat, still. At first, scientists thought it was a glitch, but it wasn't. It was sunlight bouncing off the surface of an alien lake. That single image confirmed what many had only dared to imagine. Titan had liquid on its surface, just like Earth. But instead of water, it was methane and ethane, the same flammable compounds that power stoves, cars, and rockets. And yet, the deeper Cassini looked, the stranger Titan became. Oceans that barely made a ripple. Vast plains shaped by storms that might happen only once in a century. A frozen world that acted eerily, alive. But Cassini's greatest reveal was still ahead. Because while its radar could map the surface, it couldn't touch it, couldn't smell the air, couldn't feel the ground crunch under its weight. To do that, NASA would have to send something closer, something that would fall through Titan's alien sky. By 2005, Cassini had revealed Titan's secrets from above. But NASA wanted more than radar images. They wanted to touch Titan, to feel what was beneath the haze. And that's why, tucked beneath Cassini's main body, was a small probe with one job: to fall. Its name was Huygens, a tribute to the Dutch astronomer who first discovered Titan centuries earlier. And on a cold January morning, the probe was released. It began a 2.5-hour descent through Titan's alien atmosphere, drifting down under a parachute, recording everything. First, it was blind. Thick clouds wrapped the sky in a rusty orange fog. But slowly, as the probe fell lower, shapes began to emerge. Dark valleys, bright ridges, channels snaking between what looked like mountain ranges. Then came the shock. The surface didn't look alien at all. It looked familiar. The Huygens camera showed what seemed like a dry riverbed, carved and sculpted over time by flowing liquid. Rounded stones were scattered across the ground, not jagged or sharp, but smooth, the kind of smooth that only comes from centuries of erosion. But these weren't stones. On Titan, water is rock. Those smooth boulders were chunks of solid ice, frozen so hard they might as well have been granite. The ground
Beneath the hazy
them was
orange
covered
clouds
in a
of Saturn's
strange,
moon
soft,
Titan lies one of the
snow-like
solar
substance,
system's greatest
a crust
mysteries.
of frozen hydrocarbons.
Out there is a
When
world
Huygens touched
much
down,
like
it
our
didn't just
own,
thud,
something strangely
bounced,
familiar, but at
then
the same
slid,
time it
wobbling
is
for a
alien
moment
and
before coming to rest,
unfathomable.
as
For
if it had
decades,
just landed
the surface
on wet
of
sand.
Titan was hidden
And right
from
there,
our view,
in the
until
faint sunlight,
NASA found a way
the
to
probe
cut through the
sensors
haze
picked up something
and
remarkable.
reveal the moon's true
Heat
nature.
rising off the
This
surface,
is what they
waves
found.
of warmth bending the air.
Our first close
Titan
encounter
wasn't
with Titan
entirely
came in the
dead.
year
Something was
1979
happening
when
down
NASA
there.
sent a robotic
The sky
spacecraft
above
named
was
Pioneer
dim.
11
On
to
Titan,
visit the planet
the
Saturn
sun
for the
appears
first time
1/10
and
its
investigate
size
the
on
rings
Earth.
and moons
Even at
that
midday,
surround
the
the gas
light
giant.
felt like dusk.
We've known about the
Everything was
existence of
silent,
Titan for centuries. It was
and
officially discovered in
breathtakingly alien.
1655
Huygens had
by the
landed
Dutch
on the
astronomer
bottom of an
Christian
ancient
Huygens. It's
dried out
not
from
hard
a
to
long
spot
period
either, as you can
without
probably
rain.
tell by the
It
name.
had arrived
Titan
at the wrong
is
time,
big. It's
but in
actually
the right
a bit
place.
larger than the planet
the first
Mercury,
time in
and it's
history,
50% wider
humanity
than
saw
our own
Titan's
moon,
surface,
but it's
not
still
through radar or
incredibly far
telescopes,
away.
but
So
through
when
the
Pioneer
eyes of
11 first
machines sitting
encountered
on the
Titan,
ground.
scientists
And
were
what it
eager
saw
to find
didn't
out
feel
what it
like some
actually
faraway
looked like.
moon.
But
Felt
all that
like
the
a
probe was
distorted
really able to
reflection of
see
home.
were the dense
Titan
orange
looks
clouds that
frozen and
surrounded
still,
the moon. It was
but beneath its calm
impenetrable.
surface,
What Pioneer was
breathes,
able to do was
not like a
investigate
living
what
creature,
that haze
but
was
like
made
a
of,
world
and it
that's
found
alive
something
in its
very
own way.
intriguing.
And
A
nothing
thick atmosphere
reveals
that was
better
rich
than its
in
methane
nitrogen.
cycle.
This
On
is
Earth,
very
our
similar
skies are
to
ruled
what we
by
have
water.
on Earth. The
Clouds
majority of
form,
our own atmosphere
rain
is
falls,
also nitrogen.
rivers flow.
Now, there
and
was
oceans
another
churn.
familiar discovery
But on
made on Titan, and this
it's
is what
methane
really
that
piqued
plays
the
the lead
curiosity
role.
of scientists.
Cassini and Huygens discovered that
Hydrocarbons.
methane evaporates.
What are those? Well, the technical
condenses, and
answer is
falls
that
as
they are
rain,
carbon atoms
just like
bonded
water
to
does
hydrogen
here.
atoms.
It even
Most of
carves
us
rivers,
use hydrocarbons
fills
almost
lakes,
every day in the
and
form
shapes
of a
valleys.
combustible fuel like
But Titan
gasoline or
doesn't rain
propane.
often.
On Titan,
For years,
the atmosphere
the
is
surface can stay
filled
dry and
with
frozen,
methane, which we generally
wrapped
know
in its
as
orange
natural
fog.
gas.
Then
Now,
suddenly
why
a
is
storm,
this important
not
to
a
NASA
drizzle,
scientists?
but a
Well, a
downpour
more
of freezing
practical
methane,
explanation would be that
crashing
in
onto the
addition to
ground
being
like
useful
liquid
as
fire in the
fuel,
cold.
these
Slow,
carbon-based
heavy,
structures are
and
also known
relentless.
as the building
When those
blocks
storms hit,
of
they
life.
reshape the
Important
landscape.
molecules like
Rivers
DNA
roar
and
to
protein
life.
are all built
Valleys fill.
on hydrocarbon
Methane lakes
foundations.
spread across the poles
Here's a more
like liquid
familiar
mirrors.
word for you.
And then,
Carbohydrates.
just as quickly
Sounds
as
pretty
they
much the
came,
same, and it
the
is,
storms
but
fade
carbohydrates
away,
bring oxygen to the
leaving
party.
behind
So
still,
if we can
silent
find
seas.
oxygen on
One of
Titan,
Cassini's
then we've
most
got more
stunning
than just the
discoveries
building
came from
blocks
a
of
radar
life.
reflection
We've
near
also got
Titan's
the
south
food
pole.
to fuel
A
that
lake
life.
called Ontario Lake
And
is
just so
eerily
you know right
smooth and
now,
calm,
there is
its
oxygen
surface
on
barely
Titan,
rippling
but
in
we're
the
going to
frigid
need
wind.
to go a lot
But this
deeper
was
to
just
find
the
it. So
beginning.
stick with
In
me.
the north, Cassini
Flying a
found
probe
something
close by
far
Titan was
bigger.
also able to give
Kraken
us a
Mare,
sense of the moon's
an
gravity.
alien sea
And this
stretching
is a
over
bit strange because
400,000
Titan has a
square
lot less of it
kilometers.
than you'd expect.
That's larger
For being
than the
so
Caspian
much bigger
Sea
than
on
our
Earth.
own moon, the force
Except
of
this
gravity on
ocean
Titan is
isn't
actually
water.
a little
It's
bit
pure
weaker,
liquid
meaning
methane
Titan
and
isn't
ethane,
very dense, meaning
shimmering
it
like
can't
black
be made
glass beneath a
entirely
dim
of
sun.
rock.
Titan
And that opens
even
up
has
some interesting
tides,
possibilities.
pulled
The
and pushed
combination
by
of a
Saturn's
thick
immense
atmosphere
gravity.
and weak gravity
Imagine
means that a
an
person
alien
in a
ocean on a
wingsuit
distant
could
moon,
essentially jump off a
rising
cliff
and
and fly
falling
like
to
a
the
bird
rhythm of a
for
planet
as long as
1.4
they
billion
want.
kilometers
It
away.
also makes a
And
flying
here's the
machine
part that
a
stuns
perfect vehicle
scientists
for
most.
exploring the
Methane
surface.
doesn't last long in an
Writing
atmosphere
clearly
like Titan's.
is hard,
It should
whether
have
you're
vanished
explaining rocket
ages
engines,
ago,
sending
but
an
it
important
hasn't,
email, or just
which
trying to
means
make your
something down
ideas come
there
across
is
the way you
constantly
want. You
replacing
write a
it.
line, read
Maybe
it back,
it's
and something
geological
just feels
activity.
off. That
Maybe
is where
something
Quillbot's
deeper.
Chrome extension
Titan's
comes in.
weather
With
isn't
one
just
click, it
strange.
can rephrase your sentence
It's
to sound
alive.
smoother
A
while
frozen
keeping the
world with
same meaning.
storms,
I find it particularly
tides,
useful
and
when sending
cycles no
emails.
one fully
So, say
understands.
you're drafting an email
And that
to your
mystery
boss or
would
a
lead
client and you want to
scientists
sound
ask
more
an
professional.
even bigger
Highlight the
question.
sentence, hit
What's
Quillbot,
hiding
and
beneath
instantly see
Titan's
polished
crust?
alternatives.
For
or
years,
maybe you're writing a school
Titan's
paper, a
methane
LinkedIn post,
cycle
or even a
puzzled
cover letter.
scientists.
Either way,
How could
Quillbot
this
helps you
frozen
get your
world
point
keep
across with
replenishing
clarity
its
and
atmosphere
confidence.
for billions of
The
years?
extension works right
The answer
inside your browser,
might
so
lie
you don't
beneath
have to
the
jump
surface.
between apps or
You see,
websites.
Titan isn't
Anywhere
just
you're
a
typing,
frozen ball
Gmail,
of
Google
ice
Docs,
and
social
gas.
media,
It's
Quillbot
active,
is right there to
quietly,
help.
slowly,
And if you want to try it out, check
but
the link in the description to
undeniably
install the
alive.
Quillbot Chrome
Cassini's
extension for
instruments
free.
picked up
Once you
signs
start
of
using it,
something
you'll
that
see how
shouldn't
much
exist
easier
on
it
such a
makes your
cold
writing,
world.
whether you're working on something
Cryovolcanism,
technical, professional,
or as
or
scientists
just
like to
day-to-day
call it,
communication.
ice volcanoes.
So this is what NASA
Unlike
found back in
volcanoes
the
on Earth
70s.
that erupt with
A lot
fire
of
and
very
lava,
Earth-like ingredients
Titan's
hiding
volcanoes
deep in the
erupt
outer
with
solar
slushy
system.
water,
They knew
methane,
that
and
beneath the
ammonia,
clouds of Titan could be
natural
a
antifreeze
discovery
flowing up
that would
from
change
deep underground.
everything we know about
Imagine
life
standing
and
on
the
Titan's
universe.
icy plains
It was
and
so
watching
close,
a
yet
massive mound crack
so
open,
far away.
not with
They would have to
flames,
wait for
but
technology
with a
to catch
freezing,
up. And
glowing
25
mist
years later, in
spilling into the air.
2004,
These
the
eruptions
Cassini
don't
spacecraft
happen
would
often,
finally arrive at
but when
Saturn
they
to
do,
pick up where Pioneer
they
11
reshape
had
Titan's
left off.
surface.
This
They
was a
refill the
joint
atmosphere
project
with
between
fresh
NASA,
methane,
the
and
European
may
Space
even
Agency,
create
and the
new
Italian
lakes.
Space Agency.
It's like the moon
Cassini is
exhaling,
equipped with the necessary
breathing
radar
out the
and infrared
materials that
scanners
keep its
to see
strange
through the
weather
dense
cycle
atmosphere of
alive.
both Saturn
But that's
and
only
Titan.
part
Over
of
the
the
course of its
story.
13-year mission,
Cassini's
the
gravity
spacecraft would
measurements
fly
hinted
past
at
Titan
something even more
127
extraordinary.
times,
A
using
vast
its instruments to
underground
cut
ocean,
through the haze
hidden
and
beneath
investigate
Titan's
down to the
solid
surface.
crust.
What it
A
found
world of liquid
was
water and
mind-blowing.
ammonia,
Titan is the
stretching
only moon
hundreds
in the
of
solar system with an
kilometers below the
atmosphere,
surface.
and this is
Water,
a thick
ammonia,
atmosphere, 4
methane,
times the density
carbon.
of Earth's.
These
So
are the
what that
ingredients
does
of
is it
something
actually
much
creates
bigger
a
than
reverse
geology.
greenhouse effect,
These are
blocking
the
out
ingredients
what little
of
heat
life.
from the sun can
For
actually reach
scientists,
this far.
Titan suddenly
So as we
became more
move
than
deeper
just a
towards the surface,
curiosity.
all of the
became a
methane
mirror,
gas in the air
a
gets
frozen,
colder
alien
and colder
reflection of
until it
Earth's
liquefies
earliest
and
days.
falls like
A
raindrops
place where
onto a
chemistry
surface
is
of ice
happening right now,
that is frozen as
in the
hard
dark,
as
under
granite
miles of
rock.
ice.
The
And here's
average
the most
surface
chilling
temperature
part.
on Titan is
If
negative
life can exist down
179 degrees
it would be
Celsius, and the
completely
freezing point of
independent from
methane
the sun.
is negative
No
182.
sunlight, no warmth
So it is
from
the
above,
perfect environment
just
to
chemistry,
support
pressure,
the full
and time.
hydrological
Titan
cycle of
might not be a
evaporation
barren
and
moon.
condensation,
It might be
except with
hiding an
rocket
entire
fuel
world beneath
instead of
its
water.
crust.
The
And
result
NASA was
is
about to
flowing
find
rivers,
out.
lakes, and
For most of
seas
history,
across the surface of
idea of
Titan,
life
making it
beyond
the
Earth
only
was
known
nothing
world
more than
aside from
science
the Earth
fiction.
that has
Mars
a
got the
stable
spotlight,
liquid
Europa
on its
raised
surface.
eyebrows.
Now, the
But
people who
Titan-
built Cassini
Titan
were
was never
very
supposed
smart.
to be
They
on
knew
the
that
list.
Titan was going to reveal
yet,
something
here it is.
incredible.
A
So,
moon with a
the
thick
European Space
atmosphere,
Agency included a
liquid
secondary
lakes,
probe, the
cryovolcanoes,
Huygens lander,
and
named
an
after the
ocean
Dutch
hidden
astronomer
beneath
who
miles
first
of ice.
discovered the moon.
A world with
And it was
chemistry
designed
that
to
looks a
parachute
lot
down
like
to the
Earth's,
surface and take
just colder,
photographs of Titan
stranger,
along the way.
and far more
In
mysterious.
January 2005,
Scientists
Huygens
began to
began
ask the
its
question
descent.
they once
Based
thought
on images
impossible.
taken by Cassini,
Could
the target
something be
landing site
living
was
down
believed
there?
to be the shoreline
Titan doesn't
of a
have liquid
small
water on
lake.
its surface.
The probe
But
had been
beneath the
designed
crust
to
is a
survive landing on a
subsurface
variety
ocean,
of terrain, from
dark
mountain
and
ranges to
pressurized,
flat plains and
where
even
water
a
and
liquid
ammonia
ocean.
mix into a
It had
chemical
enough
soup.
battery life to operate for
Earth,
3 hours,
life
with 2.5
thrives
of
in
those
deep,
hours being spent
dark
slowly
places,
parachuting down
in
to the
boiling
surface.
vents at the bottom
And when
of the
Huygens
ocean,
finally broke through the
where
clouds
no
on
sunlight
Titan,
ever reaches.
this is what it saw.
Life finds a way in places we thought
We begin
were
to make out a
impossible.
dark valley
So why
set
not
between
Titan?
brighter mountain ranges.
Then
And
came
as we get
something
closer
even
to the
more
ground,
intriguing.
in the middle of
Cassini
the frame, you can
detected
clearly see
unusual
a
chemical
network
patterns
of
in
drainage
Titan's
channels and
atmosphere.
streams
Methane
have been cut
levels
into the
that didn't
sides
make
of the
sense.
mountains.
Hydrogen disappearing from the air near
Some
the
of
surface.
these would be hundreds
For
of
many
meters wide and
scientists,
several
this hinted
kilometers
at a
in length.
possibility. Not proof, but a whisper.
These
of
would have been
something
created by
happening down
runoff
there.
from methane rains,
On Earth,
working their way
certain
into the
types of
valley.
microbes consume hydrogen and release
Huygens is coming
methane.
down right into
If
the
something
middle of that
similar
dark
were
area,
happening
and
on
as it
Titan,
approaches the surface,
it would
we can start to
explain
see
the
that there
strange
is
balance
no
in the
liquid
skies.
here. It's actually
NASA
landing
scientists
in a
were
dried-up
careful.
riverbed.
They didn't shout life.
When
But
Huygens
behind
makes
the
contact
cautious
with the
headlines,
surface, it makes a
the
dent
excitement
12
was real.
centimeters deep.
Because
It
if
bounces
life
and then
existed on
slides about
Titan,
30 to 40
it wouldn't be
centimeters
like
across the
anything on
ground
Earth.
before wobbling
It
a few
wouldn't breathe
times
oxygen.
and coming to a
It
rest.
wouldn't need sunlight.
As the camera begins to
It
look
would be
around on the
alien
surface,
in the
the
purest
most
sense.
striking revelation
Titan could
is
be
not
our
how
best
alien the
chance
world
to
looks,
discover a
but
second
actually
origin of
how
life.
familiar this all seems.
Proof that we're not
If
a
you
cosmic
take away the
accident.
orange color,
That life
it looks
can
like the
emerge
bottom
wherever
of
the
any
conditions
river
are
on
right.
Earth. We see large,
Even on a
rounded
freezing
stones that
moon
have been
a
smoothed
billion
over by
kilometers
flowing
away.
liquid, and they're
And that's why
surrounded
Titan
by
has
smaller pebbles
become
on what
one of
looks
the most
a
important
sandy surface.
destinations in the
Only
solar
these
system.
aren't rocks.
Because if
They
there
are
is
chunks
something
of
alive
water
down
ice
there,
that are frozen
it
as
would
hard
change
as rock.
everything.
Same with the
After
mountains.
decades
They
of
are made of
questions,
ice as well. Remember,
mysteries,
water means
and hints
oxygen,
of something
H2O, but it's
extraordinary
still
beneath
no good
Titan's
for life
frozen
if
shell,
it's frozen solid.
NASA decided
And the
to
muddy-looking
take the
surface
biggest step
around the
yet.
lander is
Not
thought to
another
be a
flyby.
strange
Not
hydrocarbon
another
material that
lander
scientists
that
found to
sits
be
still.
very much
This
like
time
snow,
they're
with
sending
a
a
thin,
drone
crispy
The
crust on
mission
the
is
top
called
and a
Dragonfly,
soft texture beneath.
and it's unlike anything
As the camera
NASA
looks
has
out into
ever
the alien
built
landscape,
before.
you can start to
Imagine
see
a
waves in the
nuclear-powered
air.
octocopter
That is heat
designed
from
to
the of
fly
Titan,
through
the
Titan's
liquid
thick
methane.
atmosphere,
It seemed
land,
to land in the right
take off
place,
again,
the bottom of a
and
river,
explore
but it just
multiple
arrived at the
sites
wrong
across
time.
the
So,
surface.
where did
It's
the
not
liquid
just
go?
a camera or a
One of the
radar.
interesting findings
It's
from
an
Huygens had to
explorer,
do with the
a
moon's
scout,
methane
a
cycle.
hunter of
We know
secrets.
about the water cycle
Titan's
on Earth, right?
atmosphere is
Water
actually
evaporates
denser
from
than
the surface
Earth's,
and rises up
which
into the
makes
sky where it
flying there
condenses
easier
into
than
clouds
here.
until there's so
Dragonfly
much
will
water vapor
glide
trapped
through
up
the
there
orange haze,
that it starts to fall back
moving
down
from one
as
ancient
rain.
riverbed to
In
another,
most places on Earth, rain
landing on
happens
dunes,
pretty frequently
loch
because
shores,
there's a lot of
and
it ended
if
up
all
getting
goes
mixed
well,
into the
sites
composition
where
of
methane
and it
water
ended up
might
getting
meet.
mixed into the
But
composition of
Dragonfly isn't
and it
going
ended
there
up
just
getting
to
mixed
look.
into the composition
It's
of
going to analyze
and it ended
the
up getting
chemistry of
mixed into the
Titan up
composition
close.
of and it
Every
ended up
flight
getting
will bring
mixed
back
into the
data on
composition
the
of
surface
planets and
composition,
moons, and then
atmospheric
played a
structure,
huge role in
and
planets
most
and moons,
importantly, the
and then
search
played
for
a huge
prebiotic
role in
chemistry,
planets
the
and
chemical
moons, and then
fingerprints
played
that
a
come
huge
before
role
life.
in
Launch
out
is
there
currently
is a world
planned for
much
2028.
like out
with
there
arrival
is a
in the
world
early
much
2030s.
like our own.
It'll travel
Something
more
strangely
than a billion
familiar, but
kilometers
like
through
our
deep
own.
space.
Something strangely
Then
familiar,
descend
but
through
at the
Titan's
same
alien
time
sky
it is
like something
alien
out of a
and
sci-fi
at the
movie.
same time
If
it is
successful,
alien and
Dragonfly could give us the
unfathomable.
first real
For
evidence
decades,
of life
the
beyond
surface
Earth,
of fathomable.
or show us how
For
a world
decades,
can
the
dance
surface
on
of
the edge
Titan was
habitability
hidden
without
from
ever
our view
crossing the
until
line.
Titan
And
was
what
hidden
makes this
from our
mission
view
so powerful
until
isn't just the
NASA found a way
technology.
to cut
It's
through
the
the haze.
question behind
NASA
it.
found a way
For the
to
first
cut through the
time,
haze and
NASA
reveal
isn't just
the moon's
asking,
true nature.
what's out there?
And reveal
They're
the
asking,
moon's true nature.
who
This
or what
is
might be
what they
waiting
found.
beneath the ice?
This
Titan may be
is
cold.
what they found.
Titan may be dark.
Our first close
But with
encounter with Titan
Dragonfly,
came
it's
in the
about
year
to
Our
speak.
first close encounter with
most of
Titan
human
came in the
history,
year
Titan
1979
was nothing
when
more
NASA
than
sent
a
a
blurry
robotic space
orange dot,
1979 when
orbiting
NASA
far
sent a
beyond our
robotic
reach.
spacecraft
A
named
mystery
Pioneer
wrapped in
11
haze,
to visit the planet craft
circling a
named
ring
Pioneer
giant
11
no human
to
had
visit the
ever
planet
visited.
Saturn for the first
But
time
today we
and
know
investigate
better.
the rings at
Titan
Saturn for the
isn't
first
just
time
another
and
moon.
investigate the
It's a
rings and
world,
moons
a
that
place with
surround the gas
storms,
giant
rivers,
and moons
lakes,
that surround the
volcanoes,
gas
and
giant.
possibly
We've known about the
something
existence
alive
of Titan
beneath its
for
crust.
centuries. We've
It's a
known about the
frozen time
existence of
capsule,
Titan for centuries.
preserving
It
the
was
ingredients
officially
that may have
discovered in
once sparked
16.
life on
It was
Earth.
officially
And now,
discovered in
for the first time, we're
1655
not just
by the
looking at
Dutch
Titan, we're
astronomer
going
Christian
there.
55
NASA's
by the Dutch
Dragonfly mission
astronomer
will carry
Christian
our
Huygens.
curiosity across the
It's
solar
not hard to
system
spot either,
to
as
land
Huygens.
on alien
It's
soil,
not hard to spot
breathe
either, as
in
you can
Titan's
probably tell
thick
by the
air,
name.
to
Titan
search for the
is, you can
chemical
probably tell by
whispers
the
of
name,
life in the
Titan
cold.
is
Whether
big.
it finds
It's
proof or
actually
not,
a bit
one
larger
thing
than
is
the
certain.
planet. Big. It's
This
actually
mission
a
will
bit
rewrite
larger than the
everything
planet
we know
Mercury,
about what
and it's
worlds can be.
50% wider
So the
than our
question
planet
isn't
Mercury,
just what's
and it's
waiting on
50%
Titan.
wider than our
It's
own
whether we're
moon.
ready for
But
the
it's
answers
still
it might give us.
own
Ring
moon,
Planet, if
but
you
it's
enjoyed
still
this deep dive into one
incredibly
of the
far away.
strangest places
So
in
when
our
Pioneer
solar
11
system,
incredibly far
don't
away.
forget to like,
So when Pioneer 11 first
and let me
encountered
know in the
Titan,
comments.
scientists were eager to
Do you
find
think life is hiding
Titan.
beneath Titan's
Scientists were
frozen
eager
crust?
to find out what